Hello everyone. I hope the webinar series we are running for you through Lawyer, I hope you are learning something really good and it is insightful for you guys. So now today we have a session on startup laws, startup compliances and how you can be like how important startup law as a career after law for the students. Today we have Advocate Antariksh Agarwal, who is a startup law expert and the managing partner of Antariksh Agarwal Law Office. His practice mainly focuses on money laundering, foreign exchange management laws, arbitration, income tax, and corporate laws. He has been, uh, he's also a chartered accountant and also dealing with a lot of corporates as their counsel. So now I welcome Advocate Antariksh Agarwal to take the session and give his insights on startup laws and compliances and how important it is for the students for their future career. I welcome you, Advocate Antariksh Agarwal, for the session.
Hello friends, I hope I'm audible to everybody.
Yes, you are.
Okay, that's great. So today we are all gathered to discuss about startup law and opportunities for students regarding thinking of a career in startups, whether as an entrepreneur or whether as a lawyer. So should we start about the discussion now?
Sure.
Okay. So if you have any questions, I would be looking them up one at a time later on once my discussion is done. So I'll just start with my discussion first, which is firstly related to startup law. So I would like to ask one basic question with all the students who are available right now on the webinar. That what do you think? What is a startup according to you? What do you think of what is the first word that comes to you when you say startup? What How is it different from a normal business? Anybody who is interested in answering that? Yes, Mohak Jaipuria says innovative idea. That's good. A unique idea, starting with a new idea, something new. Yes. Starting your own business, new idea. Yes. Okay. So majorly, whatever you guys are saying is absolutely right. It's a unique business idea. And since it's a unique business idea, nobody in the government sector has as such come up with a law which says it's a startup law. So it is something which has come up new. So like you all mentioned that it's a new approach, a new idea, a unique idea to something new. So that way is startup itself has been given not a legal explanation by any particular law, but yes, there is a department for promotion of industry and internal trade you must have heard of by the Ministry of Commerce. They have made an eligibility criteria for businesses which would be termed as a startup as per their own understanding. And what do they understand when they say that it's a startup? They have come up with a very simple 5-point phenomena when they say that companies which are less than 10 years old, firstly, newly incorporated companies, that would be termed as a startup. Another point what they mention is that it should be either a private limited company or a limited liability partnership when it is incorporated. So only the formal setup of a company has been recognized by the government. So the conventional proprietorships or without registration, starting a business without any registrations is now gone. Everything has to be registered in order to get recognized as a startup. So again, the legal side comes in play from day one for that. Another point that they mention is that the annual turnover for that company should be less than 100 crores, which is quite a big window for any startup to qualify for. So they've made very basic eligibility criteria in order to ensure that maximum people get eligible to be termed as a startup, basically. And like you all mentioned, which is very apt in saying that they've again mentioned the same thing, that it should be innovative and scalable. Something new, a new business must be there. So in case a person is reconstructing an existing business and giving it a new name and incorporating a new company for it, will not be eligible for a startup. So that would not go into that criteria. So certain people come up to me and they want to take initiative schemes, startup schemes. They want to, take advantage of the schemes. They already have a business running. So they come up with the idea that can we form another company and maybe a new director, and then we can be eligible as a startup? No. So that doorway has been closed by the government. So a startup simply is these 3-4 things. That it should be a new and a scalable idea. It should be incorporated as a private limited company or a partnership company, partnership firm. It should have an annual turnover which is far more than the threshold is far more, like for normal companies also to achieve today 100 crores. And it should not be more than 10 years old as an incorporated.
So, sorry for the interruption, Antriksh. Antriksh, as you know that the college curriculum does not have any specific startup law courses for the law students.
Yeah.
How important entrepreneurship subject becomes for them to study to become a startup lawyer?
For becoming a startup lawyer, I would say entrepreneurship as a course is very important. Since I did my chartered accountancy first and then I did my law, so I did not take up any entrepreneurship course as such. But being a chartered accountant has helped me serve to the needs of a startup, thinking like an entrepreneur, because we deal with income tax cases, we deal with corporate law cases a lot. So what a startup is first looking with for any student or any lawyer, all of you are gathered here, I would like to make one thing very clear. With startups, please don't get in a misunderstanding that a lot of money is involved from day one. So being a lawyer or being a professional who's associated with a startup is looking for all the qualities in one person. Why? Because they have limited resources to invest in professionals. They want to invest all their money into the idea itself because they want to promote their business first. Obviously, that's why they have come up with the startup idea. So they can't invest huge sums of money in a professional. So they can't hire a separate lawyer and then a separate chartered accountant or maybe a separate accountants and a team of legal. Like big companies have in-house legal teams, but startup goes out and looks for experts who can help them scale up their ideas and protect them from legal hassles as such. So entrepreneurship as a course, like you mentioned, Sahil, I would say that it's very important for those law students who don't have a commerce background, because understanding commercial challenges of a business is very important when you want to become a startup lawyer.
Right. So now we don't have a specific courses in our college curriculum. So how important research and drafting becomes for them? Does that help them in actually getting into startup laws, learning about startup laws?
I would say that research plays a little more important role than drafting. But yes, drafting in terms of not, when you are associated with a startup, you don't have to go to courts and deal with code craft that much, but you have to deal with entrepreneurs who want fast decisions, quick results. So in terms of drafting, you need presentation skills. You need the confidence to represent their ideas in front of investors, because once a startup is doing well, they want to look for funding, and angel investors might have technical questions with them. They might want to know whether you have adhered to all the legal compliances or not. So an entrepreneur might not know all of that. He knows the idea that he has built it. So for that, he needs a strong professional to stand by him and answer those questions in front of investors. That yes, this is the private limited company we have made. This is the paid up capital we had. These are the board meetings we did. This is the secretarial compliances we have done. So we are good to go. So I would say that legal research definitely plays a bigger role, because since today department, like I mentioned, DPIIT, is playing a huge role for Startup India initiatives, and Ministry of Commerce has introduced that. And then there is a Make in India initiative being introduced by the government of India. So in the research related to these departments, what are their eligibility criteria, how to get the funding done, what are the legal compliances to be done, it is definitely more imperative in nature rather than the drafting skills. Drafting is more related to courts, filing a petition
Right.
or doing illegal drafting. But yes, of course, knowledge of PowerPoint, Excel, Microsoft Words is imperative again, because you need to present yourself in front of the entrepreneurs as well. That what are the steps you're trying to take? How are you trying to incorporate the company? What are the costs involved in incorporation of the company? How much time we will take to do all the compliances? Because the startup needs instant results. They cannot wait
Right.
like in a conventional 1,000 crore company, in a multinational company. They give you a work, and then okay, you take your time, you come up with an idea, you let us know what we can do about this. They can hire 10 professionals because they have the resources to hire such professionals. But a
Right.
startup is looking for an idea. If they discuss it today in the morning 10 a.m., they want results by 11 a.m. So a professional should be able to think on his feet instantly. So yes, legal research, I would say, plays a more important role, and drafting plays in terms of presentations and doing their MS Office works. Everything is more important.
As you mentioned about Ministry of Commerce, how does that study of Ministry of Commerce helps the startups or the entrepreneurs, the founders, or the students in any manner?
It plays a very important role today, I would say, because as an entrepreneur, you can be exposed to n number of ideas which the people which people have come up with on the DPIIT website. If you check the Startup India government website, it is full of ideas. I would even share a slide with everybody. I have made a presentation. If after the webinar, they can share their email IDs with me. I'll share a list of startup ideas as an example, which have been mentioned by the Ministry of Commerce, that people have come up with in Pune, in Hyderabad, in Delhi, in Uttar Pradesh. And that is very insightful for both, for entrepreneurs as well as for lawyers. Why? Because that particular sheet that it's a PDF for startup ideas. It mentions startup ideas which will encourage entrepreneurs to get to know how they are managing their businesses, how have they come up with the ideas, what is needed to come up with new ideas, and to be eligible to fall into the Ministry of Commerce and Industries eligibility criteria. So once a student has done law, he has a very good idea about what is the Ministry of Commerce and Affairs, and we need to be eligible for certain criteria in order to get our business more be recognized by the government. So that is where the LLB degree of a student will help him as an entrepreneur. Not every entrepreneur knows all this, but a entrepreneur with a legal background, he would know that okay, I need to get an ISI registration done. I need to get an FSSAI registration done. I need to get those government registrations done to to facilitate my business even more in public, to get that funding more easily. So they get an edge over other entrepreneurs because of that. And those who are looking for startup practice as lawyers, they also get benefit through those startup ideas. Why? Because those entrepreneurs mention the support that they need. Once they come up with an idea, like I was reading about that in that PDF which I'm talking about, I'll share with students. An individual has come up with a drone idea to sanitize the area via drones, something related to that he has come up with. The whole idea is mentioned in that slide. While he is looking for a support where he needs licensing to be done. He is
Right.
looking for support where he needs funding, and he needs what do you call that, GST compliance, legal compliance is to be done. So a lawyer can step in, and their website is mentioned, their contact details are mentioned. So startup lawyers can reach all those startups, and they can mention their support nature, that we can support you as a legal uh, uh, in the legal arena, and these are the licenses that we need, and we can help them. So definitely, Ministry of Commerce today is playing a huge role, whether for entrepreneurs or whether for lawyers. And
Right.
LLB as an education will help both of them in different ways, for sure.
Okay. So, like you mentioned about Make in India and Startup India, what initiatives they have taken to raise this entrepreneurship bar in the country?
So the initiatives they've taken is they are giving more than 200, 250 income tax exemptions are there, which a startup in the once you get recognized as a startup under the ministry, uh, you get 200 and more. I think it's 266 income tax exemptions which are available just for a startup. So that's huge. No conventional normal business is getting so much exemptions. No tax to be paid for 3 years at least. So once you get recognized, which is again a legal area, a lawyer is needed to get recognized for that because there are legal formalities to be done. And an entrepreneur with a law degree, he should know that okay, there is a Startup India initiative going, and I know that I can get recognized. This is the eligibility, but I need to hire a professional who can do it in a more adept manner. So
Right.
that is how things get hand in hand for an entrepreneur and for a lawyer, because LLB as an education gives you wholesome sort of knowledge about everything which is going on around the government area, which no ordinary person might know because they just have an idea. And then half the startups don't do well because of that, because they have an idea but they don't know how to implement it, where to go, whom to take help from. So as a startup, they are giving income tax exemptions, they are giving fundings. About 323, I was reading in the Startup India initiative, 323 startups have been funded by the government already because they were brilliant ideas. Even today in COVID-19 situation, people have come up with COVID-19 solutions, and government is already recognizing them as a startup and promoting them for fundings. They're looking for funds now. So it's brilliant. I mean, Make in India initiative, and everybody must have heard these days in the news and everywhere that, anyways, countries like US and Europe are thinking to move their industry from China to India, Vietnam, to Malaysia, to Asian countries, majorly to India, because we have that kind of labor power as compared to China. So that is again a very big boost which is coming our way. So definitely it plays a very crucial role.
Okay, I mean, this is something very new to me as well, being a lawyer and, you know, so I totally get that. But now I want to actually understand, uh, like, are there any latest schemes which has been introduced for the startup? And now, as you know, that we are actually in a lockdown situation, COVID-19, how the startups are going to cope up of post COVID-19?
See, the talking about the schemes given by the ministry or the DPIIT, I would say that there are more than 152 schemes, more than 100 more than 100 easily. The schemes are available on the website, and I can share with them with all the students as well. There's a long list. Like you mentioned, another very simple things that what they do is I mentioned another instance with this, that DPIIT recognizes recognize startups. They get reduced like a regulatory burden. How? Because once you get recognized by the DPIIT, automatically you get self-certification for the labor laws, for the environmental laws. Just the recognition with the DPIIT is enough. And these, there are essential compliances to be done by startups in terms of labor law, in terms of environment law, in terms of income tax law. So in labor laws, 6 labor laws have been mentioned where you get instant self-certification. You don't need to do any extra paperwork for that. So those are the Building and Other Construction Workers Act 1996. There is another Interstate Migrant Workmen Act. So there are 6 acts like these. Everybody must have heard about the Employees Provident Funds Act.
Mhm.
You get an instant certification for that. You don't need to do file any extra paperwork for that. You just get enrolled with the as in a startup with the Department of Promotion, and then you get these 6 instant self certifications for the labor law. So what they're trying to do, they're trying to save your time. So you focus on your startup, basically what they're trying to say. So this current government is trying to give a push to all the new businesses that you focus on your business area. We don't want you to get entangled in the legal hardships by through the paperwork again and again. But having said that, all these regulations are very important to the government. So what they're doing is they're giving you self-certification instant. You get recognized with us, we'll give you a self-certification, no problems at all. So environmental laws, if you talk about, they give you registration certifications in the Water Act, in the Air Act. And these are very small areas which no entrepreneur gives focus on. They think that there is no such
Right.
thing, there are no such legal compliances to be done. But being a startup lawyer, again, like you mentioned earlier, that what are the opportunities for startup lawyer? a startup lawyer can go up to an entrepreneur and educate them that there is something called as a Water Act, which you need a certification for, because you might get penalized for that later. There is another Air Prevention of Control of Pollution Act, which you need a certification from the government, being a startup. And day by day, government and people are becoming more, conscious about air, water, and everything. So these are areas where a legal professional helps in a huge, huge way. And your next question was about the schemes you said, and
Yes.
the other part was?
The other part was basically about how this post
Yes,
COVID-19 will
post-COVID.
actually.
Yeah, so post-COVID, I would say that I think post-COVID situation would be even more beneficial for startups, like I mentioned, because already in the COVID situation, they have come up with ideas where government is looking to help them as much as possible today. Like I was talking to a client yesterday, and he has come up with a disinfectant tunnel. He has
Right.
made disinfectant tunnel where employees would be entering through it, and then they would be getting sanitizers sprayed all over, and construction labor on the construction sites, as everybody might be knowing that construction has been opened. So construction, all the builders, realtors, they have inquiries already. So post COVID, these innovative ideas and these startups are getting more boost than the conventional businesses. Even for something like as small as, I would like to mention, as small as a Kirana store. Startup India has come up with a new scheme, eKirana.stores.com. So
Right.
everybody is trying to do something new here, and government is all on board with them.
But this is something for the startups. Now, how it does gonna benefit the startup lawyers in terms of money and the work both? Because I'm sure they're gonna get a lot of work after
Yes,
this.
I'm pretty sure, and it is. I think it is the right time when people are thinking to enter into a startup law practice. Uh, like you mentioned, that what are the your question was that how?
How it gonna benefit the lawyers now, startup
Yes,
lawyers?
yes. So how they will benefit? See, again, like I mentioned, these online courses, if they don't have a commerce background, they can take those entrepreneurial online courses. In fact, I can help them. I can give you a draft course for that as well. There is a wholesome course criteria where you need to have that confidence building as well, little knowledge of commercial laws, financial accounting. So in order to start as a startup lawyer, one thing has to be made very clear, that you need to have patience, that from day one you might not get the money that you might desire. That goes for any profession, I would say. Even if you start as a conventional lawyer, if you start your own legal litigation practice, you have to have patience. Having said that, first is patience. Second is getting to know what is new going around in the world. What is happening? Ministry, what are the ministries notifications coming up? What new ways? Like for example, what I did was, I was not practicing it in that area until last week, but since my client asked me that we are trying to make a disinfectant tunnel, so I asked him whether you would need an ISI certification for that. If imagine a disinfectant tunnel will have an ISI certification, he will be able to sell more, or a random entrepreneur who doesn't know the legal aspects, he doesn't consult a professional, and he makes a tunnel, but he has no accreditation from the government. So his pitch would be that I am ISI man. Then how to get ISI man? Everything is online today. So I can apply for the ISI certification online today, sitting at home for my client. So why not do it? So this is how the startup lawyers have to think out of the box. They have to think in the shoes of that entrepreneur. They don't have to think as a separate professional, that okay, he will ask me a question and then I can answer it. No, you have to be in the shoes of that entrepreneur, that okay, he has tried to start up a new idea. I think he would need help in this area. He would need help in income tax. I think he needs to register for GST as soon as possible, because he might not know all this. It's not his fault. He's there to do business. He's not there to do the professional angle as such. So how to help him more is the idea of being a startup lawyer. You have to give more and expect less in return initially. Let the company grow,
Right.
I would say. And then probably eventually you would come up at a stage where the company is doing well, funding is coming in, and then you just have to see the conventional legal aspects of that company, that okay, now everything is done, and that can act as a, as a landmark client of yours, as a confidence booster for you, that okay, I have been managing this company since it was 1 crore old, and today now it is 150 crores old, or it's 25 crores old. So that is how a lawyer grows with that company.
Very true. Now, I actually want to understand one aspect.
Yeah, sure.
I have done my corporate law. Okay. You have done your corporate law. I'm like being a chartered accountant as well. A person doing criminal law, studying the criminal aspects, have no idea about entrepreneurship, have no idea about running a business and starting his or her own practice, then how important, like how they will able to cope up in that situation? If a criminal lawyer or a civil lawyer is starting his or her own practice, how will they cope up in this entrepreneurial business? Because even our own practice is also an entrepreneurship for us.
Yeah. So if a criminal background, somebody has studied criminal law and has been practicing criminal law, or has been continuously practicing civil law, I think it is just legal research, and since they would be very well aware of all the compliances work, since as a criminal lawyer also they have filed petitions, they have been to the courts, they know that there are government sanctions involved, the government approvals needed to be taken. As a lawyer, everybody stands equal when it's when everybody has studied. Okay, there are certain government regulations which everybody needs. There are certain affiliations needed by a government, and there are certain approvals which everybody might need, although they might not know them in that much detail, as compared to an entrepreneur as compared to a lawyer who is more in sync with the commercial laws, like contract law, or has been practicing under income tax law or company law. But the shift would be gradual. Of course, they can take help from their fellow colleagues, their lawyer friends, or they can read about it as much as they like online. But the gradual shift is not impossible. If they come up with a client that okay, a criminal, like if I think about it, that I'm a criminal lawyer, and a startup client comes to me and says, can you help me in my compliances, can you help me grow my business? So then why not? It's just a new area field where a criminal lawyer has to do his own research, and criminal lawyers are very well or civil lawyers are very well adept with doing legal research anyways, because they're looking for case laws, they're looking for judicial pronouncements. So nothing is impossible. Obviously, the time taken would be a little more as compared to someone who has already been practicing in income tax or company law, because he's very well aware of the landmark judgments and everything. But they can also read about them. Everything is available today. That's the good part.
Right. Right. So we have certain, like before taking the questions from the audience. So I would like to know your inputs or any further suggestions for young lawyers or startups or the founders attending this particular webinar. Any suggestions or any inputs you would like to provide to them?
See, for the students who are listening to me, or entrepreneurs who want to be involved in their businesses after doing their LLB, or are not LLB as well, they're just here as viewers, maybe existing entrepreneurs. One suggestion that I would have is that you should always focus on getting as much government accreditation as possible for your startups. Why? Because that is what makes you different than others. Having a startup idea today is like in every home, I would say. You might have a startup idea, I might have. If we sit together for 30 minutes, we will come up with 10 startup ideas. They might not work, that's a separate issue. But how to make them work in front of public? Ultimately, what is a startup? What is the core need behind the business? You need customers. You need to make money, basically. You're looking to do business. How will a customer trust you when you are new? Why should they invest their money into you? Because you're government accredited. You're recognized by certain councils. You have taken that professional help which is needed in incorporation, in fulfilling those legal requirements, whether it's filing of GST, whether it's payment of income taxes. You don't want to get into bad image in the first 10 years. So being a new company, the first 10 years are very important. It's like you entering a law college, and those 3 years or 5 years are the most important, because what you did in those 3 years and 5 years will ultimately help you grow eventually. So for a company also, it's the naive stage when it has taken birth. So what you do in your initial years as a learning company, that will make more sense later on. So I would suggest that for entrepreneurs that get used to getting complied with the government rules and regulations, whether they're state laws, whether they are central laws, and for that taking proper professional help. Because the biggest challenge, practically what I've seen with my clients also, is that they have resources limited in number. So if they have certain fixed amount of money they want to invest in professional help, then they don't want to, get involved with a chartered accountant also paying a hefty professional fee to them, and then involved with a senior lawyer also and taking legal help from them. But rather, they want a wholesome advice from one single person who can probably help them with all the laws. Yes, there is a mandatory legal requirement also where a chartered accountant is required to audit the statement. Okay, a CA is required to sign the balance sheet. I understand that a lawyer cannot do. But probably that particular function can be restricted to that only, so that they can negotiate the price more effectively. But if they can find a lawyer has much more knowledge in terms of legal arena than any other professional. So if a lawyer can help them, okay, I can get you the compliances done, I can get you the legal clearances done. So nothing like it. And for a lawyer, these are for the entrepreneur. So entrepreneurs need to focus only on their startup ideas and to get those compliances done as much as possible, because that is what will differentiate them in terms of at the funding level also, and to scale their business for the customer. They can mention it at n number of places that we recognize our trademark is registered, we are patented this, whatever it is, we are ISI marked, we have taken this registrations. So and for lawyers, if I would like to say, if I would say is that lawyers can read as much as possible, get to know what are the eligibility criteria. They can contact the startups. There is a whole list of startups given by the government online. I can share the list also with our viewers if you like. It's very much approachable today, thanks to technology. So there are 111 startups which have been recognized by government this year itself. Their contact details are given. Why not go to them, approach them, say, okay, I'm a professional. I can help you with your needs. Everybody is looking for help, I'm sure, because I am being dealing with it practically. They're looking for efficient professionals who can answer all their questions in one go and cater to their needs as much possible practically. So these are the things I would suggest for a lawyer as well as for an entrepreneur.
Okay, so one last question from my side: how certified?
I can't hear you, Sahil. Hello? 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 I can't hear you. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, now I can. Yes.
Yeah. So basically, I wanted to ask you how certified courses can help to garner the internship or the job after their law. I mean, for the law students, basically.
Again, I would say that certified courses would play a big part, because if I talk about me, I have a law firm, I'm dealing with startup practice. If an intern comes to me, a student comes to me and he is not very well adept with the commercial laws, or he's not very well adept with financial, little bit basics of financial accounting, I would say, or accounting ratios or economics in general, how to say we sell goods and then there is the income comes in and basics, not deep detail. I think for internships also it would be a big challenge to see, and they can learn while in internship in a law firm, in a law office, that okay, They can learn about financial statements, how are they made, what goes into it. But basic certified courses will give edge to certain students over others who want to start their careers as a startup lawyer. Why? Because as for lawyers, if they have basic core knowledge of financial accounting, of economics, and of startup learning programs, startup ideas which are going around today, I think for lawyers, they definitely have an edge, because for a corporate lawyer who is not having this knowledge, they might just go into any corporate law then and then practice in that. But for a startup, it is very important to know what is financial accounting, how to book the profits, because profits play the most important part when it comes to funding. You need to show a valuation to the angel investors. So valuation plays a big role. And what is startup? Eventually, startup is looking for funding. It is
Right.
looking to scale up its ideas. It is looking for foreign investors, maybe high net worth investors, HNIs. So what are those people looking for? A strong financial. And a lawyer having little backing of financial accounting, a little, I would not say the details, but some knowledge of financial accounting is definitely helpful. So certified course, like I mentioned, courses dealing with little knowledge of economics, contract law, financial accounting, and then personal development of confidence,
Right.
how to deal with the questions. Because once a lawyer enters into a startup's office, startup is raring to go over them. They have like 10,000 questions to throw at them. Okay, you are a lawyer, you are a commercial startup lawyer. Okay, tell me this, tell me that. So you should be ready, and you should have that confidence that, okay, I can make things shift, I can make things
Right.
possible, I can get the compliances. And there can be basic questions, because entrepreneurs don't know those questions. That's why you're there in that room. So GST registrations, okay, they must have heard that, okay, below 20 lakhs, I don't need a GST registration, but you need to convince them why do they need that GST registration beforehand? Because they might help it in the later on businesses, and they might help them recognize today itself that, okay, you are GST registered, you want to do business with me, okay, then fine. But that confidence has to be given by professional to them, that there is zero cost involved. It is instant today, it is online. Why don't you just get hold of a GST registration? Why don't the return filing is online? There is no tax to be paid until you are 20 lakhs old. It's fine. So this is the
Right.
confidence that is an entrepreneur is looking from a lawyer. That, okay, from a professional, that, okay, are you sure? You think we can do this? Okay, then that gives him confidence. Okay, that's great. Let's do this. And then it has to be done instant. And the course for entrepreneurs, a certified course for entrepreneurs, I would say definitely. Why not? Because entrepreneur has no set degree as such. Nobody is qualifying to be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is instinctive.
Right.
More today, what I see is that more than instinct, everybody might have a very good idea with them. What holds them back is, how should I implement it? What next? Okay, I have this idea boiling inside me, and I am roaming around with this idea day and night. I'm talking to my friends, I'm talking to my family. It does not require many investment, very hefty investment also. Maybe 10,000 rupees, maybe 5,000 rupees, but I really want to do it once. Then what will help them? There is a startup course I can think of for entrepreneurs, which will help them know the startup ideas which are going around. They can access those ideas. That course will help them, a certain course, with whatever they would like to take. There are n number of courses in the market today, but I feel that a course should be made, tailor-made for them, where they can learn about startup ideas, how to
Right.
do that legal research about startup ideas as an entrepreneur. Okay, so this is the person, he has made a private limited company. What is the idea they made? How did they get the funding? Okay, so this is how things are done. They can see it in a picturestic manner. Another thing they can do is they can learn about managerial accounting. What is managerial accounting? Managerial accounting is nothing. It is a smart work of combination of finance, cost, and management, basically. So little bit of finance, how to manage finance. Little bit of costing, how to deal with cost analysis, how to lower down their cost, and little bit of management skills, how to tell others to get their work done. They need to hire two people. They should ensure that adequate work is taken out of them. So the little bit management skills. So a person might have a very good idea, he might not have management skills. So he might
True.
not have that finance knowledge. He might have 10,000 rupees also and a very good finance idea. he might not know how to spend that 10,000 rupees. Somebody might just take advantage of that 10,000 rupees, but then he has to have that cost accounting and little costing knowledge that, okay, this is for 5 rupees, maybe I can get it for 3 rupees. How to do that analysis? How to take out the per hour cost? So these are small issues. And lastly would be that financial statement analysis. As an entrepreneur today, it's very important to analyze your own financial statement. Three months have gone by. Let's say I did it for my client, and they were, what happened was that this client is into getting windows made out of e-waste material. So they're manufacturers. So they were thinking that they were doing very good in the market, and they have a certain edge over others, and the revenue is coming in. But once I did their financial statement analysis and I taught them how to do it, they had a completely different idea, because they were doing a little more of credit in the market, and their money was getting stuck in the market in terms of credit, and the receivables were higher, and their payables were getting pledged slowly. So that analysis in 3 months, they got to know beforehand, thanks that they were all ears about it, that they started to change their policy. Credit was reduced, payables were reduced. So cycle of finance started to move even quickly. So now they are well off. So within 3 months, they had that challenge, but they did not know what was happening. They just knew something was going wrong. Where was the money going? So once I did the financial statement analysis, so that's a little part of the course. I think there should be for the entrepreneur.
Right. Okay, thank you so much, Antrik. So we have a lot of questions from the audience. I hope you'll able to take all the questions.
I would love to.
So yeah, so I'll start with so a question has been asked by Ujjwal Gupta. As said, rupees 20 lakhs old needs to pay the GST even after getting registered, but a CA tells not to get registered because even there is a turnover of ₹1, GST has to be paid. Can you please explain? Question is a bit unclear.
So for that, I would say that the CA is very much correct in saying that, but the registration in a GST has been relaxed until 20 lakhs. So you don't need a mandatory registration if you don't have a revenue of 20 lakhs. But as the CA mentioned to you, it was very much correct that once you have a ₹1 revenue also, then obviously if you're registered in a GST, then you have to declare it. Why? Because you must have taken ₹1 worth of tax from that particular person, and then you need to deposit it to the government. But if you're not registered as a GST in the GST and you're below 20 lakhs, then you will not charge GST also. So you have not taken any GST from anybody. So there is no liability to deposit it to the government. So getting registered in a GST, again, this is a very good question actually. And a startup entrepreneur asks these questions. This is one of those questions that, okay, I get registered, do I have to deposit tax? Of course, because getting registered means that you will declare it as a GST, you will charge additional GST in your revenue. And once you charge GST, you have to pay it out to the government.
So sir, another question we have, the annual legal compliance expenditure is less in which form of organization? One-person company versus limited liability partnership, in case I have to start something of my own?
Again, it's a very, very brilliant question, I would say. This is again what a startup lawyer has to answer to companies. And for this, I would say that in terms of private limited company and one-person companies, private limited and one-person companies have a little more compliances to be done rather than a limited liability partnership. So compared to, in comparison to costs, an LLP, limited liability partnership, involves less costs as compared to private limited and a single person company. So, and it also takes lesser time, because private limited company has to do the Ministry of it gets involved in Ministry of Corporate Affairs as well. So you have to follow the company law regulations as well, which are not there in a limited liability partnership. Limited liability partnership is governed by a partnership act, simple. And private limited company and one-person company are governed by company law. So the company law regulations gets increased once you get into the eyes of a company law. So those increase the cost and the time as
Okay, so another question is, what role does the IPR plays in a startup?
If a startup, I would say, is involved in making any particular product or an invention, definitely I would recommend, as a lawyer and as fellow students over here, they will become future colleagues with me. They will be practicing in the future. I would say you should definitely ask their clients to register for trademarks. Trademark is a must eventually, and everybody takes it today. Nobody is very alien to the fact that, okay, I need a trademark registration. Whoever has come up to me as a startup idea, their very first requirement was a trademark registration as well. So, and today it's very much convenient also. It's online. So nothing is, goes in vain. So trademark registration is a must for sure.
So we have another question: why and how tax benefits played a major role to make startups a new era of investment?
Tax benefits have always played a major role in the development of economy. It is not just for startups. I will tell you why. Because in India, the major expenditure which every company incurs is taxes first, and
Right.
everybody wants to save on them. So tax benefits are the first instance where, and taxes are the only thing which government is taking from you. The rest is your old private expenses, your employee expenditure, your purchase costs, all are those business related costs. But the only additional cost which every business bears is income tax, or indirect taxes again collected via somebody and then deposited to the government. It's not an individual burden. So direct tax is something which is seen as a burden. So those benefits help startups to grow and to save their money and reinvest it into their own business ideas and scale their operations. So tax benefits have always been there in the past. It's not that something new has come up today after startups have come into play and government has come up with a new idea, something called as tax benefits. Tax benefits have always been there. It's just that the focus has been shifted to the need of the hour. So today startups are coming in. They're huge. There is huge potential in startups. Government has made a separate department, which I mentioned, Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. This is only dealing with startups. There is a Startup India initiative going on. So they thought of, why not giving income tax exemptions to them? Because that would help them to pool in their money and save it for their own business operations. So that's how it helps.
Okay. So there's another question. What is the significance of recognition of convertible note for the funding of startups, and how such an instrument is practically issued?
Convertible note is again very much important. It is very applicable today. It's very easily done, and it plays a very crucial role in investments as well in today's time. And there are a lot of there is a procedural aspect beyond which depends on case to case basis whether a convertible note is possible or not, and what is the nature of business involved. So there is a whole procedure, legal aspects involved in that, which can be shared later, on a case-to-case basis, and it definitely plays a very practical role. But today, less people are more interested in that, because convertible notes is again when a certain stage of funding is reached, and a company has reached a certain level, then the role of convertible notes comes into play. But today, basic startups are looking for mere funding from HNIs from within India to start and scale their operations. So that completely depends on case-to-case basis.
Okay. I'll take the last question. In the post-COVID-19 period, there will be a numerous challenges specifically for lawyers. So what are the various other courses you want to suggest a student who is in law school and now, so that he should prepare for future?
For courses after doing your LLB, I would say that it again depends on the area of interest which you might have. If you have an area of interest for commerce, for commercial side, you can opt for chartered accountancy. Why not? It's a great course. It will give you a wholesome learning about all the commercial aspects. But if it is time consuming and you think that you do not have that much of time to invest now after the LLB, then you can go for 1-year courses. There are a lot of courses being done by IIMs also today, by legal law colleges as well, where you can take 6-month courses, 1-year courses, which are related to commercial laws. And if you want to go to the criminal side, then further study into criminal law can be taken as a master's in law or something like that. But I would suggest that it only depends again on the area of interest for that student. Nothing beats practical knowledge. Let's be very clear here. So if you want to go into commercial practice, I would suggest that rather than taking another course, you have to do internship with a legal in the legal department with a lawyer who is involved in legal practice, commercial practice, and then learn practically on the job. Because nothing helps more than learning practically. You might take 10 more courses, but then just take that particular one course which you might feel that you're lacking, which will give you wholesome advice on, okay, these are the things that I did not know. For example, I mentioned financial accounting. I mentioned ratio analysis. In law colleges, nobody learns ratio analysis. Nobody learns financial accounting because it's not part of the curriculum, which is very much acceptable. It's okay. But if you want to go into commercial law, okay, how can I be different from other lawyers? Let me get a course where, okay, financial accounting, ratio analysis, or income tax is touched in a more deep manner. Because in law colleges, you will learn about the judgments in income tax law. You will learn about the famous judgments, the landmark judgments. But more than that, you need to know about the income tax exemptions which are going on. The compliances required, the how to file the due dates, and what is needed in terms of GST today by companies. So some course related to that. And if somebody is interested in commercial corporate law, not in startup law, then he can take an additional course on contract acts, how to draft contracts, how to do the arbitration and conciliation between companies. So mergers and acquisitions, it's a big arena today. So that depends on the person who actually, it depends on the interest of that person. But nothing beats practical knowledge, I would say.
Right.
They should first start with that.
Amazing. So I would definitely take the list of courses from you and will pass it on to the students who are attending the session. And also would love to have the details of the schemes and the links you were talking about.
Sure.
So we'll definitely take it from you and I'll definitely pass it to the students. So I would like to thank you for such a wonderful session. It was really amazing listening you, really insightful. I hope everyone who have attended the session, be it students and entrepreneurs, would have loved it. And looking forward for more such opportunities from you and your availability for sure. I totally get
I am available 100% for all the students, and I have been through this. Every senior lawyer has been a student once, and I completely relate to all the students. And I would like to thank all the students there who have heard me, have the patience to bear with me. And as a chartered accountant, as a lawyer, I am there with all my might to help them get knowledge. See, it's very important today. I would like to mention just 2 minutes. It's very important today to have the right knowledge, because nobody is actually what I felt in the law college. I had a 3-year law course. So what I felt was that you have to do your own research. You have to fall into things in line quickly. You might take 2 internships, but then you might later on think that, okay, it was not helpful. I did the wrong step. I think then I'll try something new. There is no harm in doing that. So please, there is no such thing as a right way, that this is the designated path you have to go through. You explore your own, ideas. You explore your own self, and take ideas from people from your seniors. Read as much as possible, and I'm available for anybody who wants to talk.
Thank you so much, Antriksh. Thank you so much for such a great, insightful session and your motivational words for the students. So, in case you want to get in touch with Advocate Antriksh Agarwal, feel free to reach out and we'll definitely connect you accordingly. And thank you so much for attending such a session, and looking forward for more such opportunities for you guys. We are coming up with the training on drafting of contracts on 9th of May. So in case you are interested to attend a session, feel free to drop us on Telegram. So you have a DM number, just drop us on Telegram and definitely will send you the registration link for the same. And thank you so much for attending. Thank you, Antariksh, for giving
Thank
such
you,
an
Sai.
insightful information. Thank you. Bye. Take care, everyone.